The founding father of the Arab Palestinian movement, Haj Amin al-Husseini, had actually organized enormous terrorist attacks against the Jews of the Yishuv, in other words, the Jews living in British Mandate Palestine before the creation of the State of Israel. And the fourth terrorist attack organized by Husseini, again, the founding father of the Arab Palestinian movement, called the Arab Revolt. This went from 1936 to 1939. That terrorist attack was organized with weapons sent by Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. And after that, he traveled to Iraq, where he was treated as if he were some kind of head of state. Mm-hmm. They made him into some kind of cabinet minister with a budget and a bureaucracy. And he used that power to organize the Farhud, which was the destruction of the Jewish community in Baghdad. And then he travels to Italy, where Mussolini receives him as a head of state, and to Berlin then, where Adolf Hitler receives him also as a head of state, with all the pomp and circumstance and the cameras rolling and all the dignitaries out to receive him. And they had a very important meeting. They sat to plan together the extermination of the Jews living in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. The thing we need a hypothesis for is why the Israeli public was not told what the origin of PLO Fatah was when they were asked to support the Oslo process.
It was actively muted. It is not only... It was actively muted.
It was suppressed.
Yeah.
Now, why? What is the reason? How can we explain that the people running the Jewish state did not want Israeli citizens to know that they were bringing German Nazis into militarily strategic territory of Israel?
We started this conversation with the fact that you researched the mental inclination of people who have racist tendencies.
Yes.
When I have dialogues with my leftist friends here from Israel, I understand the tendency. The left, or at least the Israeli left, is obsessed with having a dialogue with someone. And if this is the case, they have every motivation. They see their own ideological fulfillment in having this dialogue. And if the person you are dialoguing with is a Nazi, then there is no way to justify the dialogue itself. So the motivation is, as I said, to suppress those uncomfortable facts. Okay. And we know that this practice of denial, your origins in psychology, so I believe that you are quite familiar with the mental mechanisms of denying things that you are uncomfortable with. In the mental level, in the cognitive level, people ignore facts that contradict the main course of what they're doing.
Fine.
I know, because I'm learning history, and many in the Israeli right now know those facts, know that in its essence the Palestinian idea is a Nazi idea. It was an illegitimate thing to say, because, let's say, in the late 80s and early 90s in Israel, there were still many Holocaust survivors among us. And to them, to mention the Nazi name in any context other than directing your finger specifically to Nazism was something that was supposed to be unheard of. It was very easy to suppress it in a climate when you cannot say Nazi against anything which is not Nazism itself as it was in Germany.
Well, I think if I were giving advice, I would say Israelis need to identify which candidate, which person proposing to become prime minister is promising to clean house. The last piece of advice I would give is Israel absolutely needs to invest in weapons independence.
Yeah.
The fact that Israel has to beg the U.S. to send it weapons means that it is at the whim of U.S. foreign policy. And as we've seen, U.S. foreign policy is anti-Israeli. Mm-hmm. So Israel urgently needs weapons independence so that it doesn't have to have its foreign policy subordinated to whatever the anti-Semites that run the State Department want Israel to do.